Hello and welcome to the show. We are here today with a kind of special video because we went go-karting once again with some of the filming crew. This time a rather different sort of venue. We went to the Team Sport karting track in Coventry. So this indoors, much different circuit to the Three Sisters when we drove around in the summer. It's a lot more technical, a lot twistier, very difficult to overtake on. Very, very difficult to overtake on indeed. That would play a big part. For this one, we had a qualifying session followed by a race. So, of course, yeah, up first we go around the qualifying session. We were trying to sort of figure out, learn the track, figure out what we could do, figure out how we could overtake people. That was always going to be the sketchy thing. That was always going to be the sketchy thing. So, yeah, we ran out in qualifying now. For camera footage for this, we have head cameras, we have some sort of like trackside camera footage as well. Sadly, of all the head cameras that we had, the two that didn't work, Chris's worked in qualifying, died for the race. Mine, there was no footage from. So typically, we have everyone's footage other than mine, which is a little bit of a pain. However, it is what it is. What we have got footage of, I've got all the names so we know who's who, because we weren't allowed, unfortunately, to wear our nice brightly coloured shirts for this one. So we did try, as we came to the first red flag of the day, you might just about to see it on the race suit of the person in front. We did try to, we had like tape across people's back with names written on, which in person worked. However, on the footage, the cameras aren't high enough resolution. It doesn't work, basically. So we had the first red flag of the session, and this would become a recurring theme, pretty much. You'd do a couple of laps, something would happen, we'd all stop, and in this case, Ollie wouldn't get going again. Yes, there would be technical problems as well. Yeah, we were off to a splendid start. It'd literally been going a couple of laps, and after coming to a halt, I think Ollie's kart would stall, and yeah, did not want to get going again. It got going with a refire, and that was okay. But yeah, this would be the really recurring theme. Qualifying was quite a stop-starty session, which was really difficult to try and find a flow, try and find a rhythm in all of this. When you kept, and fastest laps would be difficult to do when you kept being sort of stopped along the way. But that's what it is. You kind of had to. We all had to sort of work with it. Liam here was trying to make a three-white list of it. Not going to work. That was a little ambitious. You'll know in Pega, because Pega has the yellow helmet, quite a distinctive one. Didn't have a helmet, didn't have a camera, but able to tell. I could just about figure out who's who from that stuff. But yes, I mean, this was, I think, the thing with qualifying. You got to try and find a little bit of space. Personally, I find it helps sometimes if you've got, especially if you've got a fast kart in front of you, you can kind of chase said kart. And that kind of spurs you on to go a little bit quicker, but you don't want to be faster than the kart ahead, because then you can get a little bit stuck. You'll be compromised trying to set your lap time. And yeah, you've got to really, when you see a gap, you've really got to go for it. With this one, when there was an opportunity to find a way past, you absolutely had to go for it. It wasn't a particularly long circuit. This one, there was quite the train of cars going on. This was the Gliska train around here. Gliska was at the front of this one. I was behind, and the rest of us were all stacked up. Lado was going for an overtake out of the final corner. Almost gets it done, can't quite. And then this time it's Danger Man's going to have a look up the inside into, I say turn, I guess that's technically actually the final turn up there. I always think the pit lane will be the start-finish straight. It actually wasn't here. I was busy trying to find a way past. Basically, because we were all kind of compromising each other. It's tempting to race. Of course we want to race, and this was the trap that we all fell into at the start, is that, there are karts around, let's all have a little bit of a race. Let's all try and overtake each other, forgetting it's qualifying. When you don't actually want to be doing this, you really want to be learning the circuit, and you want to be trying to set for a fastest lap, but yeah, we weren't really doing that one very well. We just sort of all found a race, and then we had another yellow flag for somebody who had a spin in this one. So this you kind of see, but sort of run for a little bit, and then that lap's now gone, and we're going to have to go again. I did make the most of it though, with a better run out of that sort of long corner. Both me and Danger Man would make the most of said opportunity. We'd sneak our way past Gliska to try and find some clean air. And now I was hoping to go and blast off into the distance of this one, but a small mistake by me, a bit of a slide, would put Danger Man close enough. And when Danger Man decided to put them at the inside, this was the point where I thought, okay, we've had our fun racing. Dangerman was to the inside, but like, don't do anything crazy. And then I just dropped back a little bit to get myself some clean air so we could kind of try and focus on getting quick laps in, because that was what we needed to do. And then Ollie broke down again. Different place this time, similar, not from a standstill this time, just it gave up. I think Ollie was in the train of carts as well during that, but Ollie broke down, and then we had another yellow flag, and some more laps were not quite working, so yeah, that was a little bit of a pain. It was the usual suspects, shall we say, that were setting fast times. Hyper was running quickly, Clark was running quickly. I wasn't doing too badly once I got into clean air. These were all, if you saw our previous kart videos, we were all the ones fighting up at the front last time around. But yeah, it really was a case of you find some clean air, you frantically try and get a lap in when there wasn't a yellow flag, and hope that it was going to be good enough on this one, because it was someone else who would break down. Yep, that would be Chris's turn to have an issue. Was running around in, relatively clean air, had found some space, and then the kart got poorly going down the hill and decided it had enough of racing in this one. So there'd be another yellow flag as a couple of people come blasting past, or a few go past, and yeah, and that's had enough. It made qualifying a little bit difficult. I think there were quite a few people who sort of had not necessarily the most representative lap times, because you'd be on a quick lap and then this sort of thing would happen, and then you'd have to try again. And yeah, Chris would grind to a halt in all of that one. In fact, Chris would actually have to go back and get a different kart to try and do the last few minutes of the session. Obviously, couldn't get that one working. They got it moving, but they couldn't get it working again. So, yeah, that would go on. Joe was trying to find a way past. I think it's going to go up ahead in all of this. Trying to get lap times with these vehicles, it was really trying to stop them sliding. Sliding was not quick. You could see how much time would get lost if you chucked it into a corner. There was a recovering Chris sort of limping back to the pit lane in this. You get sideways with these. You can lose a whole bunch of time. The inside, that would probably be, if you want to get past done, as I said, you kind of have to go for those sort of things. You have to get it alongside, because it was so difficult to pass. But yeah, it was slightly different to our previous track, slightly different challenge around here. I have to say, personally, I preferred the outside circuit a bit more, the sort of wider open circuits. This one was, it was fun. Of course, it was fun to drive around. This braking zone down here was a real challenge, and a lot of people were going very sideways. You can see the amount of time lost when you got it that sideways. So yeah, you were not wanting to be going for that one. Yeah, it was definitely a challenge, but perhaps not necessarily my style of circuit, if you will. And we were finally getting towards the end of the qualifying session. Everyone had managed to just about spread out. Most people had got in, a few decent laps, something that could be half comparative. But as we came up towards the finish, it isn't apparently a FailRace go-karting session without somebody spinning directly in front of me and scaring the crap out of me. Liam managing to do it, and that's me going, well, crap, I've got nowhere to go now at this point. It just seems to be mandatory that somebody has a spin in front of me during these, especially in qualifying. I think it was Chris last time spun in front of me in qualifying. This time, admittedly, we had just finished. But there we go. We have the qualifying results in this one. It would be Hyper that would be on pole ahead of Clark. Liam would be third, despite the spin at the very end. Ollie, despite breaking down all the time, would end up fourth ahead of me. But it was me, Ollie, Dangerman, and Pega were all within a couple of tenths. In fact, Lado in third was only a tenth further back as well. So it was really close group back there. A little bit of a gap back to Angus and Joe with Gliska and Chris. I don't know what the timing was going on with Chris's kart. It was unhelpful. Now, the cameras were supposed to be turned off in between races and started again when you got to the next session. A couple had got forgotten, including Lado's. So Lado's camera was rolling the entire time. Little did Lado know, while he was trying to hatch a plan, the camera was recording, so we sort of heard everything.
It doesn't matter where you stand. No. Okay, you never look to change. Everyone else stays until the green light. And does everyone else know?
No, that's the point.
Oh, right, okay. Okay.
Well, what we do now,
if it goes bad, we can blame him.
Right,
Essentially, Lado was trying to organise a jump start. He wanted to jump the start with the rest of us not being aware of his sneaky plans. Of course, at the time we weren't. So he got the Marshal's agreement to be able to jump the start. However, there was a bit of a mix-up with the grid, and it kind of didn't really matter, as Lado would end up being put on pole despite the qualifying results being a mess. So while the plan had been for a sneaky jump start from a Lado, it didn't actually really quite work. Lado's going to come from sort of like the mid-pack and jump through the middle and go. Proceeded to do the YMCA while we were waiting for the green lights. I'm not quite sure on that one. Don't ask me. I don't know why the YMCA was being done, but that was the grid. So the grid was a complete and utter mess. Hyper, who should have been on pole, was in the mid pack. It wasn't even like a full reverse grid. It was just sort of like cut and shunt around. Regardless, it was going to make for an exciting time because we had a bunch of very fast go-karts trying to work their way through the pack. So yeah, it was likely to make for an exciting race. In fact, I was even further back. It was Dangerman and Impega that were on the back row. So yeah, it was a little bit of a mess, but there was going to be, in theory, going to be a good amount of overtaking as we launch the vehicles off the line. Hyper tries to stick it through the middle of all of this one, and it makes the pass work. Gets a good enough start to get two vehicles already. It's a long way around the outside here, but if you can keep up the momentum, then there is a good shout as you head down the hill, and sure enough, Hyper is to the outside. Angus is a little bit stacked up on the inside. Now, someone ran wide that made 3 wide for them, and Hyper's going to find that gap as well. Joe was in the midst of all of this. I was on the inside through all the 3 wide. Liam would have a spin. Chris would clatter into the side of Liam. That's me trying to sneak through on the inside of all of this one, and we just about got through the start phase before we had a yellow flag from Liam's. So Liam's spun got punted and fired clear. Chris, not so lucky. Chris actually managed to injure themselves and would pull off by the end of all of that. Now, Lado had got a nice big lead, but the yellow flag had brought Clark and Hyper, who had worked their way through quite nicely, back into the fray. Hyper's looking around the outside. Be a good pass for Hyper to move up into second, and now Lado was very much under threat. Hyper is to the inside as they headed down the ramp, gave it the old I'm going first, and then Clark would try it up the inside. There was a cart alongside, just about. It wasn't a huge amount of room, but Clark was in a hurry, and poor Lado would come off worse of all of that and end up pointing not quite backwards, but Lado would get going again. It could have been a worse crash for all of that, but a little bit unfortunate for Lado. It's a big slide for one of the vehicles up ahead in this. So it would quickly develop quite the train going on here. So there you can see Hyper and Clark pulling away. It was Liam in third ahead of Joe, then it was me, with the rest of the vehicles all kind of trundling around. I think it was Ollie and Dangerman would be behind that. Impega hadn't had a great start and had dropped back. Joe ran wide. That gave me the opportunity. As I said, when you saw an opportunity, you had to go for it. So there was an opportunity for me to get up the inside. It was a forceful move, shall we say. You can get a good run on that outside line, and it was just a case of I knew there was a danger there, and it was just sort of a shut the door a little bit so that Joe wasn't going to have an option to get back past, and sure enough, that put me up into a 4th place. Dangerman had not done too badly off the start. Again, considering how far back we had started on the grid, we weren't doing too badly to be battling in this group. There was perhaps having a bit of a sniff up the inside, not quite able to make that one work through there, and this would quickly become the train. Liam could not keep up, certainly couldn't keep up with the vehicles up at the front, and we were all sort of stuck behind. We then have a red flag, and there would be this Constantina bump between everybody. There was a couple of those would go on as we were getting stopped for the red flag. I didn't really know whether I was supposed to stop before or go down the ramp and stop at the bottom, and I guess I made kind of the judgment call to stop before it, and you were busy looking at the vehicle in front of you perhaps, and if you don't react quite as quick to the lights as everybody else, you sort of ended up with this silly Constantina bump effect going on. I mean, it kept our little group all close together. I mean, behind Dangerman we had Ollie, Lado, and I think it was Impega were all in that group as well. So it was a big group. Now that stoppage had given Liam a little bit of a gap from third back, and Dangerman spots the opportunity this time coming up the hill is to the inside of Joe, would get the pass completed. It was kind of a similar pass. You'll get it alongside, and just don't let them have enough room on the outside to make the run into the next corner. Hyper was busy frantically trying to fend off from Clark at the front of the race. I probably don't have any headcam footage from Clark in this one, but every time Hyper looked back, you just see the nose of a car. He was looking and looking for a way to try and get back past, and they were quite well clear of the rest of us. The combination sequence of sort of the stoppages. They had good starts, got themselves clear, and they were just running very, very quick lap times. So you can see the gap. There is Hyper and Clark. There's Liam in third. I was back to reeling third place in, and it was Danger Man, followed by Joe, Ollie, and Lado and Impega would round out. So the group spread out a little bit, and then behind that there was quite a big gap back to Angus. I think it had a spin. Got into trouble somewhere during this one. So yeah, Joe was in the middle of all of this group. I mean, this was, at the end of the day, this was the exciting group to be a part of. There was a lot of racing going on in this pack. It's kind of just as it spread out just a little tiny bit by the midpoint of the race. Hyper had run a little bit wide down by the pit section, and that was all the opportunity Clark needed to get to the inside, make the pass for the lead, and not give any opportunity for Hyper to get back. I mean, Hyper's looking every which way, sort of switchbacks going on all over the place around there, but just not quite able to do that. Impega would get a good run out of that very twisty hairpin, find a way past Lado, who would slowly, gradually just lose touch with the group ahead. Impega had a tough start in this one, was gradually trying to climb back through. The battle for third had basically resumed where it had been a few laps earlier, with me having caught Liam and then not being able to pass, and in being stuck behind Liam, Danger Man had caught up, and then Joe had caught up, and then Ollie had caught up, and then it wasn't going to be long before Impega was going to join just the back of the ridiculous train that was going round. Yeah, it was a very difficult one. You'd carry good speed. I was fastest through this next section here. This was probably the bit of the track that I was best at, but there's just nowhere to overtake through. I could be right on the rear bumper of Liam, but there was just not any room to get a pass done. Liam got a big slide. I had to kind of bail out of that one. That then made me slow off of the corner. Danger Man couldn't profit. The vehicle behind was then looking, but everyone sort of all gets a little bit stacked up. There's very, very, very close into these twisty hairpins, but you just can't overtake. There's not a big enough braking zone to overtake at all down there. The track's barely wide enough to get much. I have a bit of a slide as well coming out of that corner. That's a dangerous thing. I thought about having to cover the inside. I was expecting a dive up the inside. It never came. I got away with that one. In reality, Danger Man probably should have had a go there. That would have been the opportunity, and Danger Man just didn't quite feel they were close enough. They sort of held back a little bit, and in the end, it was actually, a little bit of a pain, because Danger Man then immediately came under threat from Joe. Ollie was right there as well, as everybody was really pushing it. There was a little bit of sliding. I'd built a tiny gap to Danger Man. I then slid coming off the to a downhill ramp. That then dropped me back again. Liam got a little bit of a breather in order to... It was manic. It was absolutely manic. It was a great battle, though, to be a part of. Yeah, you were constantly looking for a way past. You've got to be careful that the vehicle behind doesn't have a go. Ollie was to the inside, has a big dive up the inside. Doesn't quite make it work, though. Got a little bit slidey under braking. And, just lost. The loads of momentum was lost coming off of the corner. Hyper was chasing down Clark when Gliska, with a poorly car, I don't think realised there were vehicles coming to lap them, went for a bit of spin, and that would then see us all back under the yellow flag condition as Hyper was being pushed back, and then that really closed up all of the group. Yeah, it was unlucky. It was very unlucky for Hyper in that one. I just don't think Gliska realised there were the leaders coming up, and... that caused some problems. Once we got released from that yellow flag, it was back to the continuing battles for third place, as I was determined to try and find a way past. I knew if I didn't find a way past, I was very likely to get overtaken, there's always the potential of being overtaken from behind as well. We were quick through these sort of first couple of hairpins. Almost can get the nose alongside. I just couldn't quite fire the cart along there. I get a good run through here, but it's still not quite any room. Constantly checking to see if anybody's trying to get a pass on me when Liam asks too much of the vehicle, goes for a spin in front of the entire third place train, and that one will promote me. It was another I had to panic and get myself around, and then we would proceed to have another red flag as we go for a stop, because Liam ran out of steering lock and couldn't get going again from that one. I would say it was coming. Something was always going to happen with that one. That was a really difficult braking zone, so kind of an understandable one. Yeah, it's a really difficult braking zone, so perhaps not a surprise we saw somebody go round there. Terrifying for me, who was committed to the corner, suddenly have a Liam pointing the wrong way and sort of frantically dart out of the way to the outside. Amazingly, no one collected Liam that time around, unlike they had on the first lap. Poor Chris had retired at this point with having managed to injure himself with that crash with Liam at the start. So, yeah, amazingly, despite everyone incredibly close there, nobody clattered into the back or side of Liam there. We would get going and sort of reset ourselves, shuffle ourselves through this in back to the position we were before the red flag. While this had been going on, Hyper had... I don't know whether Hyper had caught up to Clark through all this, or whether Clark had dropped back to continue their little battle going on. It would be Joe having a look, trying to get to the inside of Danger Man as we headed up the ramp. Ollie had a good run as well. Not quite a good enough run to go for a pass, and now it's my turn to kind of be the one leading the train for third place. I was, again, hoping we could try and pull away so I didn't have to deal with this. Now we had clean air. We did have Glasgow with the poorly kart ahead of us that we were coming up to lap, who would get out of the way down at the bottom as good as possible. Unfortunately for Ollie, got a little bit stuck. Glasgow was desperately trying to get out of the way. Ollie ran a little bit wide. Impega saw the opportunity. Great opportunistic overtake using a back marker as well to help you from Impega to jump up another position. So the battle for third place would continue with me leading the way from Danger Man, who was almost under threat again out of that. That sort of long sweeping corner was one. If you got it a little bit wrong, you lost momentum, you'd be in trouble. Really, Joe's looking for a way past as we head through these hairpins. Gets a good run. It's so difficult to find a place to put your nose up the inside. Danger Man, though, runs a little bit wide here. Joe has finally got that overlap. Just as long as you've got that overlap, it's to the inside, off the ramp. Joe would move up into the fourth place. That would be helpful for me as well, because I had a little bit of a wobble as we came down the bottom of the ramp there. And because that fight had just given me a little bit of a gap, that's... meant we were clear. Joe gave the wall a good clout on the way through. Surprisingly, didn't lose that much momentum from that bump on the wall. There's a slide from Joe, a slide from Danger Man, and now it's Impega having a look up the inside. Not quite as clear cut as some of the overtakes we had seen there. Impega is to the inside, though, for the next corner. But you're on the outside for the further hairpin and just couldn't carry the momentum. But you can see that little exchange, how much time that's cost. Danger Man's completely lost touch with the vehicles up in front. Hyper up in second was now, trying to desperately chase down Clark, and it was a similar story to what we've been seeing through a lot of this race. Hyper had got there and wasn't going to find a way past easily. It was sort of you hope that the vehicle ahead makes a mistake. At this point, your main way you're going to find is the vehicle ahead slides a little bit too much somewhere. That was the main way you were going to find a pass. And if they didn't slide too much, there was little you could do, or you have a big so you have a big dive somewhere if you're really, really close, but you're normally over close enough because they've made a mistake somewhere. Danger Man was continuing to come under huge pressure from Impega. In all of this, though, had caught up to the back of Joe ever so slightly, but again, this is a big fight, and trying to find a way past. Joe runs a little bit wide out there. You can get some speed on that wide line if you get it right. Impega was sort of a little bit wider out of there, but again, you're not going to be close enough to do much through these hairpin sequence. You've got to just make sure you sort of know the corners where you've got to be really good at them. And it's this turn here was one of them. You've really got to get it right. And Danger Man did not this time around. Just a little slide too much. I mean, this is almost a carbon copy from a lap or two ago. Impega's to the inside this time, though. It is a little bit further ahead for Impega, and sure enough, Impega can shut the door and get the pass. Ollie tried to sneak by on the outside. An ambitious attempt indeed. Almost worked. Almost worked indeed, just not quite the space. Danger Man had been a little bit unlucky in this one, having gone from battling for third to having lost a couple of places in all of this, and almost a further one to Ollie, desperately looking for a way past, just not quite giving at that point. And Pega was going to go off chasing after Joe, but they were running out of time, and as we headed around on the final lap, it would be Clark that would take the checkered flag. Hyper couldn't find a way past by the end of all of that one, and I would hold on to my third place. Thankfully, we get ourselves onto the podium. Joe would end up in fourth, with Impega behind in fifth. It had been a thoroughly entertaining race, certainly for us in the mid-pack. Clark would take victory from Hyper, only 0.6 of a second in it. We were a lot further back. Our big train for third had cost us a lot of time for a while in this one. we weren't quite as quick in terms of lap times either in that, but yeah, I would end up 3rd ahead of Joe. Impega would be 5th ahead of Danger Man in 6th. Ollie 7th. Lado, would be 8th ahead of Liam, who had held 3rd for a long time but had a big spin. Would end up down in 9th ahead of Angus, who also had a spin at some point and lost some time. Gliska had a terrible kart, was struggling with just no power at all, and Chris managed to crash and be injured, and would end up out of the race, unfortunately. And now we would have a little podium celebration for this. Unfortunately, I apologise for the kind of background noise. It was very, very loud with all the Extractors fans going on at the place, which couldn't really do a huge amount about. So yeah, there's a fair bit of background noise. I tried to fix it. I couldn't really do too much. But yeah, we did have our own little podium thing.
Right, so now it's time for the award ceremony, and naturally I won anyway. However, for this kind of sake, 3rd place will go to Mr. Alex today, aka FailRace. Thank you very much. 2nd place will go to Lewis Hyper. Lewis Hopper, aka Hyper. And 1st place goes to me. Black coffee, everyone. Thank you all very much for watching, and until next time, hey, goodbye.
Hi! Everyone can follow Bob. Sure. Anyone else? Anyone else want to get